there was this man, and he was walking along a beach in California, and he was centering himself and contemplating universal peace and visualizing a world that works for everyone. And all of a sudden, the gray overcast sky that he was walking under parted, and the sun came out, and a booming voice said, "Because you have been so selfless, I will grant you one wish." And taken by surprise, the man said, "Build me a bridge to Hawaii so I can drive over any time I want to." And God answered, "Your request is very materialistic. Think of the logistics of that kind of undertaking, the supports required to reach to the bottom of the Pacific, the concrete and steel it would take. I can do it, but it's hard for me to justify your desire for such a worldly thing. Take a little more time and think of another wish, a wish you think would honor the oneness of all." And so the man was like, okay, he thought for a long time and finally said, "God, I wish that all people would get along, that the strife between all of us would fall away, and true equality would be found here on earth." And after a few minutes, God said, "Now, how many lanes would you like on that bridge?" I start with a joke, but aren't you feeling like a bridge to Hawaii might be a little bit more possible than for human beings to find a way to get along, and so that peace could be possible? You know, I've shared a few times in passing that peace is my white stone word. So at the beginning of every year, just to catch those of you up, on the first Sunday of every year, we do a meditation, we do kind of a visioning process, and we come up with our word for the year, a guiding word that will take us through the year of 2026. And of all the little white stones lined up, I've never chosen peace. This year, I chose peace. But I think it's really important for me to really look at the concept of peace and how I might ascend the staircase of peace in my life. This year, our theme is claiming higher ground, which means that we are looking for spirituality to help us come to a higher level of functioning and peace in our lives. And I recommend that you grapple with your own word a little bit for this year. What does it really mean for you? How will you know you're having an experience that's a moment of your word being lived? I encourage you to do a little bit of research and reading about your word to learn more about how humanity has expressed and experienced your word historically, and perhaps what the wisdom teachers of today might say about your white stone word. All that being said, you might not even have a guiding word for 2026, or maybe you were here for the white stone ceremony and who knows where that little rock is and what it even means. Maybe you didn't take it super seriously, but for me, a word for the year is pretty powerful, an intentional way of living. And today it is peace, peace, peace. So I think for most of my younger life, whenever the word peace came up, I always imagined the concept of world peace, which for me pretty much meant the absence of war. Okay, so I grew up with the Vietnam War being discussed around our kitchen table, and when my aunt's boyfriend died in Vietnam, I hated war. My brothers would play with those little plastic soldiers and declare one color the enemy and one color the Americans, and they would just be fighting and everything. I wanted nothing to do with it. I thought it was horrifying. I just thought it was awful. I thought it was heartbreaking. I remember thinking, I never wanted to have a son and have that son be drafted into a war. I thought it was horrifying to have a child taken away and killed. And none of it ever made sense to me. And quite frankly, it still doesn't. And I remember a school project when I was young where we had to research the topic of world peace. And in the whole known history of humanity, we learned that there were only a couple of hundred years, ancient times in Rome, where there was no armed conflict. And never in my lifetime has there been a year without headlines of war and conflict. And after that school project, I remember wondering, whether the word peace, was it even something that was possible? Could it even be an experience we could have? And as a human race, the reason peace is so challenging is because we have held on to the idea as a collective humanity that when others disagree with us or don't give us what we want, physically injuring them or killing them, ending their life, is an option. Whether this is happening on the individual level, in small groups, in communities, fighting, or on the international stage, there have always been people who believe that that is an option. Yet here it is, my white stone word, 2026, right now, with all that's going on, all that is possible in the future that I can see from this moment. I wrote down peace. Really? Really? I quickly realized that I think I need to really define what I mean by the word peace. So over these past 4 weeks or however long it's been since we did it, I've been praying and meditating and journaling and reading about peace and trying to personalize it for myself. And I think I'm ready to share some things that I have figured out with all of you. So the first thing is the idea that how I measure my peace cannot be out there. It can't be out there. My white stone word is about peace here. Here. My experience of peace in my own mind, my own heart, my own hula hoop, my realm of influence. That's where peace is possible. And it all starts with tackling that primal belief that it is okay to hurt someone else who disagrees with me. Now, you're going to be very happy to know that your minister does not believe it is okay to hurt another human being. Phew, right? You know, I healed that intergenerational wound of family violence with me and my parenting. That stopped now. It stopped with me. I don't physically hurt other people. So in that regard, peace was mine to claim, yes. However, if I'm going to go further up that staircase of peace, I have to continue to work on my thoughts and my power to hurt other people. That's my stair to climb this year. I won't physically hit anyone, and I don't think, I will actually have a pretty good handle on my verbal expressions. I don't verbally injure people directly anymore, but I still have some work to do around the things that I say about other human beings and certainly my own inner thoughts. So I found this little piece of wisdom I want to share by Pema Chodron, the well-known American nun, and here's what she said about it. When we hold on to our opinions with aggression, no matter how valid our cause, we are simply adding more aggression to the planet, and violence and pain increase. Cultivating non-aggression is cultivating peace. Well, that gave me pause for thought. So if my measurement of peace is about what is happening in my own heart and mind, I have some work to do in cultivating non-aggression within this space. And I've come to another big realization. I've realized that there is only one thing that stands between me and peace. Do you know what that is? The idea that something has to change out there for my inner serenity to be possible. Period. I have got to choose inner peace for myself, regardless of any temptation to allow my inner peace to be disrupted by anything that I think needs to change for it to be possible. Wow, that's going to be a practice, right? So I stand on the staircase of peace in my life. What has me headed up to higher ground and what has me headed down to a lower vibration? I bet the answers to that for me will be very similar to what it would be for all of you. So descending, we always start with the descending part. When we descend the staircase of peace, it means that my thoughts are headed into fear. Can you hear that? Right? My conversations are headed into affirming that things of chaos have power over me. I go down the staircase when I awfulize the information that comes my way. If it's world affairs that are on the table, I go down the staircase to a lower vibration when I project problems into the future, when I want others to meet their ultimate demise because I am somehow going to get hurt. If it's a personal issue on my mind, I go down the staircase when I allow others to upset me, and then I call a third person to wallow with me. I need my what do we call it? My woe. I need my woe person to come make me understand. I don't need to elaborate, but we all know what it feels like to go down the staircase, don't we? We know what that feels like. But if I want to ascend into greater peace and claim higher ground, I've got to look up. I've got to remember that the power of the universe is orderly and intelligent. I have to remind myself that this too shall pass. I have to wait in faith, knowing that every soul is having its right and perfect experience of this moment, no matter what they may look like, and that everyone has a choice to make in their own experience, and that choice is none of my business. When I affirm that love always wins, I take a step up. Peace is up those stairs, and spirit meets me there, and I can feel that inside. Making the choice to go up that staircase of peace means that I have to release my, wait for it, need to control. The need to control and peace cannot exist in the same mindset. Let me say that again. The need to control and peace cannot exist in the same mindset. I'm not talking to y'all. I'm talking to me. Y'all just get to listen. So making the decision to go up the staircase of peace also means that I have to let go of the need to control, the need to be right, the need for others to change, the need for the weather to be a certain way on a certain day, the need for an outcome to be to my preference. Whew, it's going to be a long staircase, y'all. So I want to make this a practical lesson. Remember this little peachy piece of paper that we brought out the second Sunday of the year? There are different areas of life, and I wondered, can I go up the staircase of peace in every area of my life? So let's start with the first one. What can I do in the area of my personal and social connection? If I want peace to be my experience as I relate to other human beings, what does that look like? If that is going to be my life, peace has to be my predominant mindset as I move into conversations with people around me. I want to listen and soften my heart when I disagree. I want to lead with a yielding heart. So you may have heard that I've been chatting about a little bit, that I started a neighborhood book club this year in my neighborhood. Where do I find the time to do these things? I don't know. But at our very first meeting at the beginning of the year, there were some obvious differences in personalities that became apparent. And since I was the leader, I had this mindset of creating this peaceful circle. And since I was holding that mindset, I decided to choose to engage with each one of them as an individual. There are 13 of us in the circle. Because we live in a fairly diverse neighborhood, and it's diverse in many ways. And among the book club members, there are obviously political differences. There are diversity of ages and lifestyles and ethnic backgrounds and varying values. And it would be easy to start categorizing as this is a good person, this is not a good person, this is a good person, all of that. But my inner peace is calling me to assume that love is available in each of those individual connections. And if I can lead with that peace of mind, then we've got somewhere to go as a group. So in my personal and social connections, it's my intention to lean in with an awareness of my desire for peace. Wouldn't that be helpful for me, right? In the second area, which is physical health, I want to choose peace around any physical challenges that I may face in the year ahead. I tend to resist. so many things about my body. So I want to accept and lean into what my body needs and kind of release stress so that my body can be more at peace. Heading up the staircase in this area of life also means holding peace and inner peace around my appearance and accepting aging as the privilege that it is. You know, Susan and I were talking about food plans and dietary restrictions recently, and also a great source of inner peace, don't you think? Anyway, I know that I can really hold this internal struggle about the ideas of resistance around this topic, and I decided to adopt a new word. I declared that I am now a Lainitarian. And I invite you to do it for yourself, meaning my intention is to peacefully eat what I know is good for me and set aside that which I know is not for me. Not because some other external authority says so, but because I know myself. I'm going to become a Lainitarian. You can't have that. That's mine. But peace within my body is my aim because I don't want to be at war with my own physical magic suit. Does that make sense? My third area on the piece of paper is financial. I want to be at peace with any unexpected changes to my flow, which happens to all of us, right? Can we have peace around that experience? My practice is that if I have an inner wave of fear or resistance or judgment about any expense that arises, I want to affirm, God is my source. Remind myself of what I appreciate about the thing being called to be paid for, and then calmly extend that financial appreciation without disrupting my inner peace. Man, that's going to be another practice, right? I've got a year ahead of me. But I want to know that every time I invite Spirit to guide me in this, I will feel more free and abundant and relaxed. The next one is our home life. You know, in our home life, we've discussed how we both want to be more at peace as to how the day unfolds, especially when things don't go as expected. We're both big control people, right? So since we're both mostly retired, she's really retired, I'm just kind of sort of playing around with retirement, we often head in different directions. And I've realized that deep inside, we were talking about this, we secretly worry about what the other person is thinking about how we're spending our day. Like, what does she think about what I'm doing, that kind of thing. And peace between us is so invaluable. Rising up that staircase is about letting go of any need to control each other as a barrier to peace. And maybe for you, something else challenges your peace on the home front or in your most intimate relationships. But I invite you to honestly identify what those challenges are and how they might stand in the way of you rising in peace. The next area on the thing is work and creative expression. So peace comes when I allow Spirit to work through me. So I do several different things, and one of them is coaching. So I don't advertise for coaching clients. So I step into peace when a new client steps forward, and I don't like freak it all about it, like I've got what I need to help this person. But when an old established one comes reaching out for an urgent, I need help now, I can relax into that. Just allow that calendar to unfold as it does. I feel greater peace when I don't force my writing for all the things I write around here. Just let it flow, let it happen. It's super helpful, and I said this in Sacred Cup this morning. It was super helpful when we declared this a perfection-free zone, because it allows my work to flow more peacefully, and I don't get hijacked by the idea that things have to be perfect. Can you relate to that? Could you declare your life a perfection-free zone? The sixth area on the piece of paper was growth. Okay, so speaking of perfectionism, when we want to grow, or at least for me, my perfectionism stands in the way of me trying new things. Like if I can't be perfect right away, like, oh, I don't want to look stupid, I don't want to look like I'm learning, I can often get really jacked around mistakes or things about growing and doing something new. So peace comes from releasing attachment to how quickly I learn, or even if I can learn something new as I grow. And then last, there is healing. So when we are in the role of healing in our lives, for for me, peace comes through forgiveness. Peace comes through looking at the past. It was what it was. It is what it is. Nothing could have or should have been different. It just is what it was. And so peace comes from relaxing into knowing that even if I was hurting or disappointed or injured, my soul was never damaged. That is where peace comes in the healing process. So my Whitestone word is all over all of these categories. And when I live from that God quality of peace, I will definitely make better choices as I go through this year. But what about for you? Would having greater inner peace help facilitate your own white word from coming forth? You know, when I talk about all of this in group or in Sacred Cup or even in class, it frequently comes up that we want to change things out there. Yes, we do want things to change. And around here, I think we all agree on how we'd like things to change out there. This group tends to want more compassion and more equality and more justice and love and harmony and respect for individuals. And actually, I think those are the same things everyone wants for themselves. But around here, we want those qualities for everyone. It's okay to want things to be different. But my encouragement for you all today is to not hold your inner peace hostage until things actually do resolve. Remember at the beginning of the lesson that I shared that there's never been a time in my lifetime without conflict? The point is that there will always be things that seem chaotic and unpredictable and unsettled. It's part of being human and living on the planet with billions of other humans. But choose peace today. It's right up the staircase, and I invite you to climb it with me this year. What I want for myself, I want for all of you, and I want it for every person on the planet. The thing is, everyone has to choose it for themselves in all the different areas of life. Let's take a vow of peace. I'm going to close with a quote from Mother Teresa. She said, "If we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. Let us always remember that we belong to each other." Will you pray with me? Take a big deep breath. Allow that peace in that breath to become who you are in this moment. We are beings of peace. We are beings of love. It is our birthright. It is who we are. And so I know for each one listening right now, an expansion of peace as their experience in this day and every day going forward. I know the path in front leads to peace, leads to greater and greater experiences of peace when we choose it. And so for those listening right here today, peace is possible. Peace is ours. And so it is.
And so it is.